The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, the host of the show, along with Kristina Liu, who is the Project Independence and You radio producer of Project Independence and You for going on 12 years.
Yeah, we're going to be hitting our 12th anniversary, in September.
It's amazing. 12 years of Project Independence and You, and Kristina has pulled this show together almost every single week of the year for all these years with these great guests, including our guests today. And Kristina is also the Director of Senior Citizen Affairs for the town's Project Independence. And of course, we work together. We'll be missing Otto today. I know he's away with family. So Otto, hope you're having a great time and we'll miss you. And of course, Dan Cox is here too. So we have two wonderful guests today. Jeff Stone, who is the co-founder of Project Help, and Ellen Ritz, a nurse. She's a board member of Project Help and president of NAMI, am I saying it correctly? NAMI, CS Long Island. And I want to thank you both for joining us today. It's a very important topic because, you know, seniors also have issues of addiction and mental health issues. And you know, it's a different way that we support seniors in that way. And I know that you both are very involved in it. So I'll start off with Jeff. Jeff's been a great friend for probably since we started with Project Independence. I mean, you're probably one of the original Project Independence members, as well as always there to provide information for seniors in whatever aspect you're there, because I know that you wear a lot of hats. But you are here today to talk mostly about Project Help Long Island. So you can give us kind of a little background on Project Help and you know, what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, I am Jeff Stone, and I want to thank the two of you for inviting us over to speak today on something that's very important. It's mental health, wellness, and our seniors. Project Help, the backstory is that in 2019, I was watching TV, reading online, reading in print media, something about mental health, wellness, illness. I kept hearing about suicide. I kept hearing about vaping, social media, gambling, a lot of dysfunction out there. And I said, I've got to do something about this. I was with a nonprofit organization, and I decided, because I had a title behind me, to do something about it. It was an opportunity I saw. And I spoke with a colleague, Kathy Levinson. She's vice president of Project Help Long Island. I said, I feel like I should be doing something. She says, you should get off your backside and get involved and start it. I said, well, if I'm doing this, you're coming with me. It's that simple. And since then, we have not stopped. We became a nonprofit. 3 months later, some attorney calls me up and said, we're going to make you a nonprofit. I was instructed to do that. And I said, wonderful. Okay. Since that time, we've received grants. We've spoken at numerous conventions, whether it's the Kiwanis Convention, Circle K Convention, which is the college level of Kiwanis. We spoke virtually with Key Club, which is the high school level of Kiwanis in upstate New York. Ellen and I have spoken here at LIU Post. We've had seminars here at fairs as well for the students, and that's an ongoing relationship that I really treasure. But the mission for Project Help Long Island is to create and spread awareness for mental health, wellness, and help educate individuals and families on substance misuse and where to go for help. Basically, we provide education and resources for mental health and substance abuse awareness. That's in a nutshell what we do. And we've been very successful. We've had 4 mental health marches, walks within Port Washington and Manhasset. And we're just, again, we are collaborating with like-minded organizations, coalitions in Nassau County and throughout now New York State. So good things ahead. We're trying to spread that message. So I'll introduce at this point Ellen. She's been a very, very important component of Project Help Long Island on our board, and I respect everything she does. And Ellen, by the way, was the keynote speaker, asked to be the keynote speaker at the Circle K convention up in Albany this past March. So we drove back up again after we came back from Albany in February for the Kiwanis convention, and she was well received. And so thank you very much for that, Ellen. So
thank you, Jeff.
So, yeah, Ellen, I mean, we'd love to hear, your role as well as a board member of Project Help and also president of NAMI. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
So both organizations actually have the similar focus. What Jeff already said about Project Help, and NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. It is actually since 1979, and the mission basically is to educate, support, and advocate for people struggling with mental health challenges, and I call them challenges instead of disorders, because you can meet a challenge. And so it's a national organization, the largest actually grassroots mental health organization in the country. And it becomes, New York State and then the affiliates. And that's where I'm on New York State as well as the affiliates. The affiliates do the work, we do the programs of the education, the support, and the advocacy. And what Jeff had said is the first thing is awareness, but how do you make awareness? By education. So I love what you do. I love Project Independence. And no matter what age and what your challenges are, and we all have some, being aware that how you handle your problems really makes the difference. We all have them, even when you look in the social media, right? And everybody's having a good time. And I say to my support groups and my classes, no one's having a good time all the time. That's just that moment in history. So perception and expectations are really, really important. And how you deal with that is also education and awareness. And that's at my heart as a health educator. My history was I was graduated from Columbia, ended up in Bellevue Emergency Room, head of their trauma unit, and then head of an intensive care unit. And then I was brought over to Mount Sinai to organize their clinics in the city. And then from there, it's just been so much going on, diabetic health educator. I get into everything because I love helping. I love making a difference for people, no matter who you are.
Well, you've seen a lot, especially in a lot of the emergency rooms that you've been in. So we're very grateful for all your work. And before we get into questions, I just want to say I like what you were saying too, mental health, not saying conditions or that kind of a thing. Just and the terms that Jeff used that I like too is it's mental health wellness and substance misuse. And I did hear our supervisor talk about substance misuse because really people who are prescribed medication and really don't maybe not even know that they're misusing it, are really misusing it and not necessarily abusing it. But still, I do like that kind of positiveness to it, that there is always hope, and education is so important. Something that we talk about with all of our guests, and I'm sure is true, and you probably have stories and data, is COVID, what COVID did for mental health in terms of causing some additional problems, but also it seemed that it kind of took some of the stigma away because so many people had, came out with these, mental health issues over, young people, old people, being isolated and, no contact, living alone, those kinds of things. So, that word stigma, I'm sure you understand it beyond, mental health issues always kind of, they have a stigma to it, and people a lot of people, especially older generation, are not likely to come out and ask for help or even recognize that maybe it's depression or something else. So what has been, I want to say, the experience of Project Help and kind of noting the mental health crisis and how that has kind of changed or come a little bit more into limelight since COVID, and what COVID really did? I mean, negatively in terms of causing isolation and fear, and then also with so many people, and of course there's a shortage of mental health help too. So it's kind of like a big question, but I think you understand what I'm getting at is, really coming from the stigma point of view is, have you seen a decrease in that with people wanting, kind of openly asking for more help?
Asking us.
Yeah, Ellen, you could answer that on the
Okay,
clinical.
so first of all, I agree with you. I love what you said, that COVID, although it had a lot of negative to it, the good thing is it brought mental health awareness into the forefront, and therefore a lot more money is going into research. Mental health and psychiatry has always been the stepchild of medicine, but is a biochemical imbalance that causes the mental health, poor mental health, or mental health conditions such as psychosis, depression. I think depression has always been recognized in the older population, because what happens as we age, right? We lose sometimes our abilities, sometimes our hearing, sometimes our sight, our ability to walk, our kidneys with all aging become a little less functional, and so many other things. So what happens when you were this strong person who could be independent, project independence, and do all these things, is that suddenly you can't. And it's fearful, and people, and you have to depend, that's the hardest thing, to give up your car keys or depend on other people. And so depression is very common. What we've seen actually in now coming up, and I'm not sure if it's something new or something that's always been hidden, but with in the 60s or 70s and beyond, we're seeing also bipolar. Someone who's been able to function their whole life suddenly has bipolar, whether it be mania and depression or any combination thereof, and sometimes psychosis. I do want to say, when you talk about substances, marijuana is the worst thing that happened to us. The marijuana of today is 9 times or many, many times the THC, which causes psychosis. And so the developing brain and that end, which develops up until the age of 30, sometimes triggers, if you have any kind of genetic proponent to psychosis, will trigger it. And in the older age and anywhere along the line, that could happen as well, depending on how much you're smoking. And it also decreases motivation. It makes you 4 times as more anxious as you were in the past, we would have been without it. So you'd smoke it for lessening your anxiety, and actually it increases it in the long run. So, causes some GI problems. So talking about substances, I like that you said medication misuse, but this is not what we call medication. We call this self-medicating and substances and things now, no matter what it is. We just had a presentation on, was it Katam? Is that what it is? Katam. And some other things, and the stores are selling all of these things. And I'm so sorry that as a society, elder people and who are not noticed that they do this as well, they try to self-medicate rather than using coping mechanisms. And maybe COVID, because of the loneliness and the fears of getting sick and dying and all the other things that it brought forward, and it didn't allow you the social coping mechanisms that we all used, right? So therefore, if you were keeping it all together because of you were going to work and you had some social things, and so the healthy coping was there, and then COVID took that away to a large extent. And so what happened? I'm going to tell you, stress is everybody's enemy. It is natural. It is part of our lives. Life is never flat. It goes up and down. And then so when you have stress, how do you cope? We all have stress. It's how you decide to take care of that stress, or how do you sometimes just focus away or step back from it. But that's where sometimes therapy, if you're having that and you're really affecting your enjoyment of life for longer than 2 weeks or more, or that you're not functioning, that's when you seek some help in for some therapy, which I describe as being with a confidential person, objective, and talking about your stresses and how to handle it. Was that Wayne Dwyer said, when you change the way you see things, the things that you see change. And I love that because it really is about how we see things. And it is such an important coping tool to say, well, and I just had this conversation in our peer group yesterday, was about, when you walk into a grocery store, something simple as that, and the checkout person is really irritable and nasty. It's not about you. I always think now, well, maybe they're really struggling with financial, with illness, with a divorce, who knows? And it's very rarely what anybody does, even our family or friends, is about us, comes at us, but it's more about their challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel, go ahead, Jeff.
No, to Ellen's point to the question about COVID and seniors and how things changed overnight. When we started in 2019, we had 3 in-person seminars at the Port Washington Library. We had experts such as Dr. Jeffrey Reynolds of FCA. We had Ellen speak, of course. We also had Dr. Stephen Dewey from Stony Brook University. And it was lightly attended, all right, which was a shame because people needed to hear what was going on. But then COVID hit, and instead of me sitting down and watching TV, I said, I got to do something here. So we pivoted. Now we had Zoom discussions on mental health, wellness, substance misuse. And we got into the segments of the population, especially when it came to teens and seniors. Now, seniors, I have a soft spot for them because of my real estate business. I work with older homeowners, with the teens and children. It's Kiwanis. That's their mission, to help children of the world. All right. So basically the 2 most vulnerable segments of the population. And I saw, you didn't have to be on a clinician side. You saw the statistics and talking with people through consultation, but I saw the effect that it had on people. Being isolated is a huge deal, and the seniors could not get out to the senior centers, adult activity center. They could call up other friends, but they couldn't associate with others, and it affected teenagers too, very, very greatly so. And again, I'm an advocate, board member of 8, 5 of which are clinicians. I'm an advocate, but I know what I saw, and COVID, as Ellen alluded to, did help us, believe it or not. It was as terrible as it was. It did help us because now more and more
You know what,
people.
Jeff? I'm sorry, but we have to take a quick break. So hold on to that thought. Okay. You're listening to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Kristina Liu and Dan Cox, and we are speaking to Jeff Stone, who's the co-founder of Project Help, and Ellen Ritz, who's a nurse and a board member of Project Help, and also president of NAMI, CS Long Island, New York. So I know, Jeff, right before break, you were just finishing up talking to us a little bit about seniors and mental health. So.
Right. Well, COVID was a difficult time for all of us, but especially for teens and for seniors. And seniors are greatly affected by it because they could not meet in person at their centers, adult activity centers, senior centers, and it affected their mental health. I mean, from my standpoint, I saw the damage that it did do. So COVID, though, in a sense, allowed us to talk about this. And then when we were out of COVID, we saw the difference, or at least I did from my point of view, not on a clinical point of view as Ellen's, but I saw the difference. I was speaking to an older homeowner yesterday. She was in tears because she's not as mobile. She's alone, isolated, family's not around. And I spoke with her for about 15 minutes, and I strongly recommended she call 311 and talk with them about social worker coming over. I said, can you get over to the adult activity center in town? She says, I can. I said, if you need a ride, I'll take you. But that's the first step. So she was so happy. And I met her again before. And I said, how are you making out? She says, I'm going to go to that senior center and I'm going to talk about what's troubling me. And so that's the first step. I see this and I try to act on it. You know, we're all people, should be helping people, community helping community. And I am so blessed with the board members we have, 3 of which are advocates like me. Ellen Ritz, we have Nicole Sullivan, she's earning her doctorate for psychotherapy. Dr. Joseph Smith, Executive Director of Long Island Reach and Port Counseling. Keith Fiveson, who is the founder of Mindfulness Institute, wonderful. Connie Bruno, who's with Manhasset CASA, and another great coalition member. So, you know, again, we're really doing well, and I'm just grateful, thankful to real professionals bringing us up to a high level. So.
Right. Thank you for that. Ellen, so I wanted to just talk to you. I know you want to talk about, you know, this whole, I don't want to say losing independence, but maybe that whole concept of losing independence and memory loss and some of the things that, you know, seem to occur with the onset.
So, yeah, and I definitely want to get to that. I just want to address something that actually you said at the very beginning is stigma. So when I have families, and I deal with families as well as the people who are struggling, when somebody has grown up in the senior times or even above 40, stigma is very hard to lose because you were, you know, really, I'm not crazy. You know, I'm not, you know, the alcoholic, the addict, whatever. I just want to say it's not that easy with the older population where it is with the younger people coming up. So
right, and it's some just of the, like, I was gonna say, it's like also another level of the stigma that our culture has on aging. You know, it's almost like aging is a curse. You know, in other cultures, a lot of times your older population is revered, you know, as wisdom and then when, you know, it's almost like you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to bring on yet another ailment or another issue of aging.
Yeah. And also families are dispersed, you know, with the time of movement, you know, some people are in California, in the Midwest, who knows, right?
Right.
And so it used to be where families were together and give each other support. Just a note. Some of the things that really people are concerned as soon as you turn actually probably 50, you say, oh my God, am I losing my memory? So a couple of things to look at. Number one, the aging brain does lose some memory, but it's not so significant that you put a shoe in the refrigerator or something like that, right? That's a little bit more concerning. But other things are, you look at who you were before. I never could remember names and probably faces as well. And that was always something. And so it may have gotten a little worse, but I that's who I was. So when you look for some of the things that you're afraid that is significant of aging, look and see what was before. Right. And if it continues, it's really not as significant. And that's usually good with any kind of physical or mental health challenge. The other thing is the loss, as you said, of independence or abilities or and some of the things, I'm a practical person, and I like to say, what can we do to help, not just to focus on what we can't do. So a couple of things is, as I said, to almost any age, communication and connection is a human need of every human being, no matter how old you are. And so the mental and physical stimulation is primary. And so what happens is that sometimes people treat older people like they can't hear, they can't see, they talk down to them. And it's really, even especially if you're in a nursing home, the stimulation is probably less. Independent and assisted living, it's more. But one of the things is to, when you have somebody and you think they're losing some memory, talk about the family, talk about things that they're interested in. Sometimes they're not interested in politics or the current events. Things that they know will keep that brain going. You know, taking them for walks, as my daughter would say, you know, the exercise increases your telomeres, whatever that is, in your brain, and you live longer. But basically, exercise doesn't mean you're running around the block. It could mean just taking a slow walk half a block or whatever
Right.
it is. You don't do more than you can, but you push it a little bit, because sometimes when you,
Engaging, right.
yeah, and when you're tired, somebody say, I don't want to do it, but then you do it and you feel better. So, just that balance. I'm going to tell you what I used to say to my mom, when she got out of the car, and I know it was a little hard for her, I was there just in case, but I said, what she used to say to me, if you don't use it, you lose it. So it was a really good thing. And I used to say to her, Mom, I'm not being mean. I want you to use those thigh muscles a little bit and get out of the car yourself, but I'm here to help if you need it. And so those kinds of things can be really helpful, not meanly, not angrily, because I'm going to tell you, my core belief is if you could do it, you would do it. So anybody who's not doing something, please don't get upset with them. They probably can't do it. And trying to stimulate them, whether it be physically or mentally, reading a book, I don't care if it's a children's book, depending on what level they're at, or a magazine. It's really, really important to keep that brain in motion, doing puzzles if they like it. Some people don't. Going out to the mall. I used to go on a grocery shopping trip with my mom, and I knew it was going to take 2 hours or 3 instead of 1. And I planned that time. And I knew I love to go to the grocery store anyway. So we talk about the food on the shelves or whatever that would be, because it was interesting. There's no bad thing to do other than being mean and angry and thinking that someone is having control issues. Don't do that. Control issues are the thing that shouldn't be in any relationship. People do what they can. Be kind. Kind is one of the nicest things you can do to anybody. And when I used to visit my sister-in-law's mother in the nursing home, I'd say hi to everybody I passed while I was getting to her room, because they are not just a piece of furniture. They are people, real people with real feelings. And so, it's such an important thing. One of the things I say to almost everybody, when you smile, those smile muscles put positive chemicals in your brain, even if you don't mean it. But when you smile to someone, you can make a difference in their life. How wonderful, right? So there's a lot more I can say. I don't know if you want me to zoom in on anything else. I could talk for a long time. There's something else in particular you're interested in?
Well, we are, our listeners are seniors, and, the mental health component is a biggie. And it's good to, give all kinds of education. And, I'm a yoga instructor, and one of the things that I teach is when we start out and we start breathing, or, we start our breath work, and I, we say, think of something positive, think of something joy. And when you inhale, bring that breath into your body, bring that positivity in. And if you can't think, if nothing comes to mind, put a smile on your face. Just bring that energy in. And, it does make a difference. We do talk a lot about mindfulness, and I like what you were saying, Ellen, is let's not talk about the negative. Let's talk about the positive things. There are ways to stay engaged. And Jeff, you talked about it too. What happened during COVID? You went virtual, right? And
right. You had to pivot to a different, way of staying active.
Right. And that's what kept us connected to our Project Independence members, because, we had tons of programs. We had 17 exercise classes a week. We had health chats and support groups and massive transportation program and all kinds of things. And it all stopped. And a lot of our seniors, we're an aging in place program, and that's our commitment to our residents. We're going to help you age in place. We're not everything. We can't, Project Independence isn't your only, tool in your toolbox.
It's one of the tools in the toolbox.
It's a good one though. And if we don't provide a service, we'll make sure we would recommend someone. And I'm sure we have to Project Help or to NAMI or to wherever, whatever program is out there. So I truly love that whole aspect is, there is a way, there is, this is about mental health wellness, and that, but what can a senior do if they're a private person and they're noticing, like you said, and I like what you said a lot, Ellen, that if you're someone who doesn't remember names or faces, and all of a sudden you're like, I can't remember that person's name, what's going on with me? You're getting a little, but you never really were good at names. So, and I've never been good at names or faces really. So I love that you said that. I'm like, So the positiveness about it is great, but what can someone do? I mean, someone who maybe, it went through COVID, everything's fine, they're back to normal, but they're starting to feel down or depressed. Who do they go to if they tend to be a private person? Like, what should their first call be?
Oh, Ellen, you're muted.
I left that out and I apologize. The first thing when you see a change in a mental or physical, but particularly a mental area, you need to get a medical exam, not a psychiatric exam, a medical exam. Because as a nurse who worked in an ICU or in the hospital as well, when you have a oxygenation or chemistries or your kidneys are a little bit out of balance. And so therefore it causes temporary, sometimes depression or psychosis or disorganization. Those are easier to correct. Let's say you have, you're not drinking enough and your kidney values are a little bit off or a lot off. You can correct that by saying, you need to drink more or whatever that may be, or an infection. So please get a physical exam first to rule out everything. Again,
Right.
because those can be corrected. And rather than treating something that will go away when your body, your homeostasis gets back in balance, you definitely want to do that. Thank you for asking that. The other thing I love that she said was stress. Now, sometimes we stress ourselves because we are getting old and we can't do it. And so trying to move through that with some equanimity and figuring out what you can do, not what you can't do. And we have groups. Everything that NAMI does is free. Purposely because we want to be open to everybody, but that communication. And I have older people come to me who really need the support because one of their family members are struggling. And so a lot of times us older people really don't have the comfort and acuity with technology. I always say, try to get someone to show you how to get on Zoom. And then once you do that, write down simple notes and open your computer and just get to that Zoom place each time. Because that, if you can't, sometimes it's more convenient. People actually like it better sometimes because it's you don't have to travel. You don't have to worry about getting someplace. And the communication on Zoom can be excellent. So that's something that they can do. The other thing is with stress, again, I'm going to get back to that stressor, because when you're under stress all the time, your immune system gets weaker. And what happens is you get more ill or ill begin with. And so what she said is mindfulness. The breathing is wonderful. The breathing is actually a physiological reflex feedback and relaxes you. And you can take that anywhere. The other thing is to distract you, because sometimes we have what we call ants, automatic negative thoughts. And when you have those, they go zzz around your head and you say, I can't stand it. I didn't, I shouldn't, whatever it is that you're saying to yourself. So, I mean, there are techniques to get rid of those, but as importantly, try to focus away from them. Sometimes you can't get rid of them and say, I'm going to watch a program that I really like. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to look outside at the snow, the flowers, whatever it is for you. Have a bowl of ice cream, whatever you have to know for you. Mm-hmm. What will keep you in the moment? That's mindfulness among yoga and meditation and things like that. But staying in the moment. And what happens when you stay in the very present and stop thinking about should have, could have, and what you need to do in the future, or which may, sometimes we worry about something that may never happen. My mother said, stop wasting your anxiety about something that may never happen. And it's really good. So when you stay in the present, a couple things happen. Your brain chemicals become more positive and your immune system gets stronger and we live longer. So the anxiety also cuts down our memory, our focus. That is the first thing it cuts down. Just think anybody, I don't care how old you are, when you're anxious, can you sit by yourself and focus on something? Probably not. So try to use the techniques. We are not victims. We do have choices, even though sometimes we feel very victim-y. Right. But look and see what we can do. And I really, it's come to my groups, I'll say, okay, I recognize there are challenges, but let's see what we can do about it. And that's
I like
really
what you were saying too about staying in the moment. Yep. I took this workshop a few months ago, and we were talking just about that. When something good happens, a lot of people, and myself, I do it too, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Right. In this moment, when your son is getting his degree handed to him, and you are so proud and everything's going great, And I'm just like, wow, this is like, I'm so proud. I can't believe we're here. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh God, what if, we're driving, huh? Then I start like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, in some way, shape or form. And somebody will say, oh, congratulations. You must be so proud. Oh, I am, but I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop,
Yeah, I know.
So,
I hear you.
you know what I mean? It's like we like be in that moment of joy. And what this guy was saying, it was kind of a mindfulness workshop, and it was also a yoga class. And he said, the other shoe will drop. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. The other shoe's going to drop. But right now, you're in
right
this
now
great
it's good,
place.
right.
So, enjoy it. It may happen in a week. It may happen
Yeah.
in 3 years. But right
When
now,
we come
you're
back, I want to give you a technique with that.
okay.
Oh, great.
We're going to come back with that technique, and that's a great idea. So we do have to take a quick break. You're listening to Project Independence in You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Kristina Liu and Dan Cox. And our guests today are Jeff Stone, co-founder of Project Help, and Ellen Ritz, board member of Project Help, and also president of NAMI CS Long Island, New York. And right before break, you wanted to talk a little bit about CBT. And could you just give a little bit of background on what CBT therapy is?
Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's how you deal with the ants, automatic negative thoughts. Actually, I think Dr. Dan Amen created ants, ANTS, not the automatic negative thoughts, because we all have them. They're in every human being. And it's a quick cognitive behavioral therapy. It takes a lot longer, but these are some good things to help you when what was said before about the negative, don't do that. What I'm going to tell you to do is, because some of us come from a background where we do look at all the negatives for whatever reason it is. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and this takes work, there's nothing that we do that's just going to happen automatically, but if you do it, it works. So what you're going to do is give me, if you don't mind, give me a thought of yours. Okay, the other shoe is going to drop. The other shoe is going to drop. And I don't agree with that guy. The other shoe may not drop, by the way. But anyway, so what I would do is, I'm glad that he's getting his component, but the other shoe may drop. I'm waiting for them. Then what I want you to do is flip it. The other shoe may not drop. Maybe things will be okay. So flip your negative. I want you to write down your automatic negative thought, because there's usually one presiding thought, and I want you to flip it into the positive. And then you can look at which is more truer. So usually the negative thought isn't necessarily true, right? So flip your negative thoughts. It takes practice to look at it more positively.
Right.
And it really will change you. Okay, that's step one. Step two, and this is how you deal with stress and anxiety. Take a look at it's usually a situation, and usually stress and anxiety is about something that we don't know how it's going to come out, or something that you think you can't control. You're not sure what that is. So you take a look at what the situation is. I'm going to give you an easy situation where a student says, oh my God, I'm getting a test. I'm going to fail. And then you say, well, what can you control and what can't you control? And this is a really basic human thing to do for anything that you're thinking about. What you can't control, you throw out. What you can control, figure out how you can, be effective or do something that will help. And it may, so the student says, I have a test. You can't control what the professor has on the test, right? But you can control studying. So you say, okay, I have 5 days for the test. I'm going to study an hour every night, so I'll feel more in control or feel less anxious, right? So there are a lot of situations where I know older people, any people, think, oh my God, my daughter's so nasty, So you can't control somebody nagging you or picking on you or whatever they're doing, but you can control how you react, what you
Yeah.
say, and what you do.
True.
And that's a core value of my family classes as well. You can't control another person. You only can control what you do, say, and react. And I promise you, by changing what you do, say, or react, and the more consistent you are, the more people will change around you.
You know,
Right?
I've heard a little bit similar scenarios that you go through, and that we talk a lot about on the show is replace the word control with manage, because there are certain situations that you're in, people are sick, you know, you're working two jobs, you got a million things going on, and you can't control really anything. I mean, you can control your own studying habits, but when you have a hand that's very complicated and you're here and you have to do these things, you really can't. So you have to, the way you take care of yourself is by managing what you can do. And this is your hand. You know, where people are dealt hands, horrible illnesses, and you know, it's, you can't control it. You can, you know, manage the care that you get, the doctors you choose to go to, and that kind of a thing. So I don't know if you've ever heard that kind of way of.
I tend to like to throw out what you can't control rather than keep it in and try to manage it. I try to look at what you can, affect, what you can have some influence on.
Right,
and so
right.
you can't control an illness, but you can bring the company and, be in connection with them, which will make their quality of life, whatever they're doing, feeling better. And if you make them feel more positive, depending on the illness,
Right.
maybe you'll help them get better faster. But,
Right.
and I love that. So I don't know about managing. I think managing belongs on the can control side. One other really important point, and I love that you said there's so many things and complications in life, right? We all comes out as at once. So a really important philosophy is when you have a goal, and we actually practice it in some of our classes, our peer classes, pick one goal, one thing. You can't have more than one to change at once or to work on, and have a short term. If they're too long term, or if they're too many, the success rate drops very precipitously. So, figure out what you can do, right? And
I
not
love
only that, but short term, because if,
Right.
and it's a really important human practice with resiliency, with being successful in change and what you need to do.
Because you almost set yourself up for failure if you have,
Right.
like, even if it's like a weight loss, I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to lose weight, those New Year's resolutions. By June, I'm going
Yeah,
to
it
be
puts
down
too
50
much
pounds.
pressure.
And then
It
what do
really
you
does.
do? You know, you
Right.
don't go to, you miss one gym and oh, there it goes, I'm done. Or you don't stay
So
on.
let me
Yeah.
tell you, my daughter's she had suggested, it was really good. In the support group, somebody came in and they said, oh my God, I was off of drugs, and now I had a fight with my boyfriend after 8 months, and now I went back. So she said, look at it this way, and it's addressing what you said. Not that you missed one session, but okay, now you did it before, you can do it again. Very different. Remember how you see things. So not that I missed the lesson, I missed this. I did it before, I'm going to do it again. And it's a really important, these are tools that remember how you think and how you see things. And that's really what your choices are, to try to practice that. I always say to people, write down some of these things, because otherwise we forget them, right? And so when you hear them and see them in your own notes, and you put little signs on it, I have talk less, smile more. And some of them, and my daughter thought, she said, I love that, Mom. but so when you write things and it not only hear it, but you see it, eventually that brain starts, hopefully, if you're motivated, to change a little bit. And
Well,
those are
you know
little.
what I was actually gonna say, and I was something that I can't remember if I read it or I watched it, because I'm always looking at something involving, mindfulness and kind of anxiety and stress relief. So clearly my social media was aware of these things that I'm seeking out. But it was actually saying, so much of us, we get our negative thoughts, right? And you're fixated on that thought and you just keep thinking about it. And you'll say, oh, I shouldn't be thinking about this negative thought. I got to get out of my head. But by saying that, your brain just keeps thinking about it because you're still thinking about it. So you actually have to just replace that thought with a positive, not even thinking, bringing into the negative thing, so it's really just like what you were saying, Ellen, is just shifting your brain. And I love these kind of things. And I think you're giving great concrete. We always say the golden nuggets of our show, because it's things that you can really put into practice that aren't so overwhelming and heavy. The smile thing is one of my absolute favorite things in the world, because it really does work. We had many years ago, a laughter yoga person came on, and she was saying that you actually trick your brain essentially into feeling this, it gives off the same amount if you are actually laughing. So I think like these little tips, to apply it into your life can make such a difference, and it doesn't take that much overwhelming effort, which I think is so important. And
Practice, right?
if someone wants to get in touch with NAMI, was there a good phone number? How would they?
Yeah, you can go to our, you can get to your website. I can always call me. I can give you my phone number as well.
Mhm.
It's 516-330-9778. And our website is www.nami.org. And so we're starting we have many programs, including family surviving suicide loss. We have couples groups, sibling groups, family groups. If you have somebody who's struggling, how do you support and how do you help them? We have groups for people who are dealing with depression. We have a lot of younger people and older people now in these groups. There's Zoom, so you can get there. Not all, some are in person, and they're really and I'm going to tell you the one last thing, which I really love, and you sort of brought it out, humor. Let's use humor. I love to laugh. And, I'll talk to my dogs if I have no one else, but also, but humor is so wonderful. And when my mom was ailing and it was so hard, and, she's bedridden at that point, and I used to say, now I can hug and kiss you all I want. And I go on her cheek, so doing sweet things and fun things. It's hard because everything is so serious. Try to get out of that into some joyful or funny, even if you're not joyful, some things. It's really helpful, the humor. Everybody likes to laugh.
I do know that joining a service organization does help someone because you're giving back to the community.
Yeah.
We've even set up call committees to call up someone that they haven't seen in some time, check up on them. Very important. During COVID, though, I can remember everybody was isolated in their apartments, but what we did, I started taking photography shots of the sunsets. And
they're beautiful sunsets. I will vouch for Jeff's pic. They're amazing. They're beautiful.
That helped me to cope. So what happened, people started coming out one by one. Before you know, we had about 13 to 15 seniors, which I affectionately call the Sunset Committee. And they would also come out, some with, canes, and during winter time, during the cold weathers. That's how important it was to be with others. And that helped them. It helped me a lot. And getting back to this one lady that I had seen and talked with that was beside herself in tears, saw her late yesterday. And I said, well, did you call 311? She said, no, I didn't. I said, well, why not? She says, I will. And I will call the senior center today, the adult activity center. And she says, thank you for caring. And really, that's what it's all about, is caring, saying hello to somebody, as Ellen said, a handshake, a smile, anything. Everybody we know in a service organization like Kiwanis or Lions, what have you, Knights of Columbus, you can help someone. Everybody has the ability to do something, no matter how small you may think it is. It's like I said, a handshake, a smile, a phone call, doing something to get out of yourself, helping someone else. That is huge. And I encourage everybody to look up how to join a service organization, get involved, or any other group within your town. The senior centers in town, they have a lot of great programs. They're wonderful, and they offer great nutritious meals, a lot of them. So again, that's, what I recommend.
And Jeff, with Project Help, if someone, is an organization and they want Project Help to speak for something, yes, is there a good number to reach out to you guys?
That would be me.
Okay.
My cell number, 917-741-8294.
Yeah. I love what Jeff said, because we also use volunteers. We're all volunteers now.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, people have wisdom with age. Don't ever discount your experience and your wisdom. And we have people, like Jeff said, who can sit home and call. And there's so much things that we do need. So we're just setting up committees now. So please reach out. And we would like to, as much or as little you want to do. And what would be an area where you feel comfortable. Always like to put a good fit in there.
Very remiss if I didn't mention my good friend and uncle, in a sense, Carl Alina. He'll be 97 in September, and we cook 2 or 3 times a month. The gentleman is amazing, World War II veteran. And I met him at the advisory meeting in Washington, and we've been friends ever since, Kiwanians, and it's been great. And so, it's wonderful. The people that you meet is incredible. And it just doesn't matter the age. It's all upstairs here and how you feel in here. So very important to be of service any way you can at any level. That's the thing. You have to get out there. You move a muscle, change a thought. So,
Absolutely.
What another thing too is what Ellen, you were talking about those small goals. And when I teach yoga, in the beginning of class, we set an intention, right? The intention is something that you intend to accomplish for yourself. So I talk about that. I said, an intention is something that you want to accomplish for you. No one else, not the kids, not the partner, not the grandkids, not anyone else but you. Something really special. Think about that, and then after I have my classes where I teach my seniors, and then like the 3rd or 4th class, I'll say, okay, let's set our intention. Wait a minute, who is that intention for? And they'll be, everyone's like, and they won't say anything in the beginning. I'm like, come on, who is that intention for? Why are you here? And then they're like, it's for me. And then 9 out of 10 times people come up and they say, I never thought about me in that way. Like, it's only for you. This is a little thing you're doing for yourself, and it's a goal. It could be coming to class today and you've already accomplished it. Or it could be anything, holding a pose longer in yoga, or maybe taking a walk today in a park and just smelling the roses. Whatever it is, it's something you enjoy personally,
Right. It can be the smallest thing, as you said. And that's what I always want to get across to everyone that's listening, because it can be so overwhelming, to be like, oh, I need to conquer and get a better mental health. I mean, it sounds like this crazy, unreachable thing. But, these little tiny goals, and I remember during COVID reading a lot about gratitude and journaling, your gratitude. And it could be the simplest thing. It doesn't have to be some, earth shattering like revelation you had. It could just be like, I'm thankful for, having my cup of coffee this morning. I mean, it could really just be the littlest thing. And all those little things, it may sound silly, really add up to, give you a better mental health situation, which is so important.
I love that you said gratitude every morning. And this is what I suggest for people also in my groups. I said, look, whether it be every morning or every night or both, think of 1 or 2 things you're grateful for. When I take the dog out in the morning, I say, thank God I can breathe. I can look at this sun or clouds, whatever it is. So I really appreciate, that's a huge thing in changing lives as well. So thank you. That's great.
Yeah. With my Kiwanis Club, we received a lot of good information from our board members, the clinicians, and we've set up team leaders throughout New York State to receive these documents from our clinicians. Tomorrow morning, I'm interviewing one of our board members on a particular topic under the mental health umbrella, and we'll send that discussion, that link, to them along with the 1-page overview so they can bring them to their community to set up projects in their town to help spread awareness on mental health and wellness to their clubs and their divisions. And that's how we spread this. And we've also referred individuals to our board members, like Ellen. I've referred some folks to her when they've called me up, or to other coalitions that needed that particular help. So again, it's spreading the word with a loudspeaker, letting everybody know that it's okay, what we're doing, how we can help, who we can refer you to for the help that you need. And, and that's really what it's all about, so.
Also,
Yeah.
one other thing that we didn't mention is that a lot of times as you lose abilities, you hold on to other things, and that's a fairly common thing. And so really understanding that someone's not just being a hoarder or holding on, it's really because they're feeling a loss of abilities of whatever that is for them, And so when you want to take a big project, and it's not that I'm a hoarder, but I do have a lot of papers. So I'm looking at, oh my God, how do I tackle this room? And I say, take one drawer, one piece at a time, and it's really, that's how you try to do things, a very small area, because otherwise you're so overwhelmed. And I see our friend coming in.
Well, you could do I mean, that's a great piece for, another show. And I know we're going to have you both back on the radio show. And I'm sure Kristina is going to get you both to speak to our seniors. Jeff, as you know, she will be calling you, and Ellen, you too. I want to thank you both for spending a full hour with us. So important, such great information. Appreciate so much all the education you're putting out there. People can get in touch with you if they miss the phone numbers. Please call 311. Get in touch with Kristina or myself. We'll make sure that we give you all get to Jeff's personal cell number and Ellen's contact information as well. You've been listening to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio.